Not to start with beans, but what about this economy? Inflation is through the roof, am I right?
You're about to be through the roof.
So there are these trading cards on Steam. You get the 4 of them for free playing a game. It's all a scam because you need 5 of them to morph together to become the great trading card robot that proves that you actually really love this game that you've put 200 hours into, right? Everybody knows what these Steam trading cards are. Not that long ago, I felt lucky to get a penny on some of these trading cards because Steam takes their cut. Usually it's 2 cents, and usually it shows you like a graph of like what this card has sold for in the last month or whatever, and it's like you have to list it at 3 cents to try to get a penny after Steam's cut. But this week, I finally logged back into Steam after quite a while and saw the usual dump of trading cards from games that I've been playing, and I started putting them up on the market, and I was getting like a dime back or like 15 cents for a trading card. It's crazy. I don't know how we're gonna survive all this inflation.
I think you need serious psychological help.
Welcome back to Dime Gaming Bros, where we talk video games and shitty video game movies and shitty video game news, and then more video games. We do this once a month. I'm your host, Jacob, joined by my co-host, Spencer.
Hey, what's up, dude?
And today, I get to start the show off with my review of Kingdom Hearts 1 or 1.5. It's complicated. Kingdom Hearts was developed and published by Square Enix and originally released for the PlayStation 2 in 2002. The series itself went on to release other games on so many other game systems, and those games were relevant to the very complicated story, so it was quite frustrating to be a 2000s kid trying to play this series and actually know what was actually happening. Some of the games were remastered, collected, and released on the PS3 in 2017, but then finally, in 2018, Square Enix released a package called The Story So Far, which collects most games all on the same system. PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, with a few of the games remade entirely, and some of the games simmered down to just relevant cinematics. And that's because, some of the games were like on a Game Boy Advance, and it'd be really impossible to like try to port that to a PlayStation and like have it interesting to play or whatever. For story, Kingdom Hearts at its most basic takes Final Fantasy and smooshes those action figures, or should I say anime figures, into Disney worlds with the relevant Disney characters. This one mostly uses Final Fantasy X with some sprinkles of Final Fantasy VII. Gosh. We start out with our main character, Sora, living on an island with his friends Kairi and Riku in a weird 10-year-old love triangle. Sora and Riku like Kairi and try to compete for her attention. Eventually, after some strange happenings and cryptic lore drops, the island is invaded with creatures called Heartless, and Sora is sucked away into other worlds. He meets Donald and Goofy, who are searching for their unnamed missing king. Their king told them if anything weird ever happened to stick with a guy using a key as a big-ass sword, which is oddly specific. Donald and Goofy remain as Sora's party through most of the game. Goofy usually has a shield and is fairly strong, while Donald is a wizard that dies if an enemy stares at him too long. The crew goes from world to world, leveling up, defeating Heartless, sealing keyholes found in that world, searching for their missing friends, and meeting new friends along the way. Some worlds include Wonderland, the jungle of incredible soundtracks from Tarzan, the ocean of incredible soundtracks from The Little Mermaid, and the graveyard of incredible soundtracks from A Nightmare Before Christmas. After beating a bunch of Disney villains, Sora discovers that Riku is being used by the powers of darkness to fight them, and that he's not just being an asshole. After beating him a couple of times, Sora fights Ansem, the king of his island that was just quote-unquote researching the Heartless. Sora then fights Ansem again, and then the dark version of Sora again, and then Ansem again, and then maybe one more time. The end of this game is absolutely incredible. It feels like a literal boss rush. I got to a point in the game where I thought I was almost done, and I was really excited, but it turned out I had 9 bosses left, almost in a row. That took the wind out of my sails hard. I almost put the game down simply because I didn't want to work my way through the bosses just to hit a brick wall and have to go tediously grind levels. But I pushed through. Some weird shit happens at the end of the world. King Mickey and Riku are glad for Sora's help in defeating Ansem, but they have so many more Heartless to defeat, so they lock themselves behind the giant door at the end of the world and say something cryptic like, "We'll see you in the sequel." I really liked that the different Disney worlds are kind of a retelling of a section of each movie. So in the ocean of incredible soundtracks from The Little Mermaid, Ariel doesn't want to do what her dad commands, and they fight Ursula, who is trying to rise up against the king and take his trident. It's not a one-for-one retelling of the movie, but it has a lot of common themes and feels like a couple hours of gameplay of like, hey, remember this movie? But it doesn't feel like a cheap knockoff or a boring retelling. It feels like a friendly homage to a classic movie that's been tweaked a little bit for a unique experience in a cool game. In the jungle of incredible soundtracks from Tarzan, you start by fighting the big mean kitty a couple of times, and then there's a lot of running around trying to convince the monkeys that you're their friends, and then eventually the final boss is the bastard that's trying to shoot the gorillas, Clayton, riding an invisible praying mantis. You have to slap the shit out of him as he shoots you very accurately with his old school blunderbuss. It's similar to the movie, but different. For visuals, I really like the art style of this game. It's 3D modeled, but it's colored to look quite cartoony. Bright colors in the worlds and on the characters' costumes make everything look vivid and easily distinguishable in a big group fight. Most of the enemies being blacked out goo blobs also make the characters stand out very easily. For sound design, besides the incredible soundtracks, the sound design is great. The voice acting is very good. I have no idea if the actors were children or not playing children. The index of sound effects is a little limited. So, for example, Sora, Donald, and Goofy make a sound every time they attack, and that sound rotation can get a little old, but that would probably just be a limitation of the PS2. These sounds are very helpful to understand what Donald and Goofy are doing while you are concentrating on your own thing in an intense battle. It's safe to assume that Donald is dead, but if, for example, you hear Goofy say "Gorsh," you can quickly check his life bar at the top of the screen and see if you need to throw a healing potion at him. Contextual sound effects. For gameplay, before the game even starts, there's a small tutorial level that Sora has to play through to learn movement, attacking with his sword, etc. After the basics, you, the player, have to make your build. You're offered a sword, a shield, and a wizard's staff, and the game asks you which one you want to be good at. After that choice, the game asks which of the 2 remaining you want to suck at. Obviously, the sword is attack power, the shield is defense, and the staff is magic casting. After that, there's a weird personality quiz that decides how quickly you level up through your playthrough. The 3 possible outcomes are your first 50 levels are quick, and then after that, each level is slow. Or you can get an even rate of leveling up, or the first 50 are slow, and then everything after that is quick. I chose the steady rate, but when I finished the game, I was in the very low 60s. So in retrospect, I probably should have chosen the first 50 to be quick, but I don't really know if it really matters. The personality quiz was a weird mask over the system. It's not intuitive at all. It's like, what is actually happening right now? It's very weird, but kind of cool and unique. Donald and Goofy share their spaceship to get from planet to planet. Each level transition requires, until late game, a mini game of flying through space, avoiding asteroids and other obstacles, as well as Heartless in their own spaceships. Somehow. The spaceships all have their own pew-pew guns attached, but the flying controls are so stiff and generally ass that these missions never felt fun. You can alter the shape and functionality of the ship, putting pieces together like a digital Lego creation. But the controls to do that in the ship editor are unintuitive and very difficult. Thankfully, near the end of the game says, all right, you've done enough of these. Here's a warp drive, and we'll install it for free. So I was able to just zoom in between planets trying to clean up missions or whatever. I didn't mess with the ship editor at all. I pulled it up once and was like, nope, this doesn't make any sense. I just left it alone. There are collectibles to find through the game. There are different colored trinities, little stickers to find. They allow you to interact with the world to unlock new doors in the levels or find items. The different colors unlock as you play through the game, encouraging backtracking. There are also Dalmatians to find. After so many, 10 or 20 at a time maybe, Pongo and Perdita give you helpful items like potions as thank you gifts. There are also treasure chests to unlock with the Keyblade that hold potions and such, but also Dalmatians and also ship modules that allow you to build the ship in the Ask Spaceship Designer. I started feeling spiteful at the end of the game when I would open a treasure chest just to find I got yet another ship piece. It felt like they put a lot of ship pieces right at the back end of the game. This is a Final Fantasy style RPG, so of course you have to do all the JRPG things. As the player, you can alter character behavior settings, including item usage. By this, I mean that I could dig through menus and say Goofy attacks with his basic attack frequently, use defensive magic sometimes, and only use health potions in an emergency. I could set the frequency that he did these different actions. I think there are about 8 different behaviors I could change for Goofy and Donald. If I wanted them to have access to items, I would have to manually put each and every item in their inventories. And honestly, they would burn through everything so fast. I was having to do it for every boss fight for the last several fights of the game, for whatever fights proved to be a challenge. Sora has a small menu in combat, the same as a lot of Final Fantasies, where he can choose to attack, use a spell from a list of magic abilities, or use an item in his inventory. This menu was difficult to use because you have to use the D-pad to flick through the options in real time. The fight doesn't pause as you're using the left stick to move and not get wrecked in a fight. I hardly used items in combat. Speaking of Final Fantasy, something I didn't really like was that a system for spellcasting was changed. In my limited experience with Final Fantasy, you level up a spell simply by using it over and over again, naturally getting stronger with what you're familiar with. For example, Cure, Cura, and Curaga heal you or a party member for more HP depending on which level of the spell you cast. In this game, spells are upgraded by doing things, like beating bosses, finding the upgrade in a treasure chest, or the most egregious example, finding all 99 Dalmatians. I have a couple more quick notes to talk about in gameplay. So the A button is how you attack with your sword, or I guess choose your option in the menu in combat. B is jump. X button is the dodge roll when it's equipped. So I'm going to pause right there. You have actions and abilities in a menu that you have to find. And as you level up, you get more and more action points. So say you have 7 action points that you can use in total. And these different abilities cost differing action points depending on what it is. I think the dodge roll cost 1 to equip. But I didn't really feel like the game told me I had to find this menu to equip these action points or these abilities. And so fighting the bastard that's trying to shoot the gorillas, Clayton, I needed a dodge roll, and eventually found help online that says go to this menu and equip the dodge roll, you idiot. And I was like, oh, that would have been nice to know. There are also other abilities that attach to the Y button. So usually they were special attacks that were contextual. So after a 3-hit combo, you would press Y to do this special spear attack or whatever. I don't know. I'm trying to remember the specifics, but it was hard to trigger the Y button abilities. It would flash very quickly. I'd be like, oh yeah, that's a thing. And it would be gone by the time I actually moved my thumb to press the Y button. So I hardly used those. The Colosseum in Hercules' world is good for grinding levels. There are different cups to fight through, which are just waves of enemies, usually with different flavors and sometimes with unique characters as bosses. I didn't beat all the cups. I think I had one left to do out of 4 or 5. Each world has a relevant character to add to the party to replace Donald. The Jungle of Incredible soundtracks from Tarzan lets you add Tarzan, for instance. My favorite was Beast. He was the only one that I felt truly made a difference in battles. Even with Donald and Goofy, it felt like they were just spamming the enemies and I would have to come do cleanup, like do the final hit. I would like stand by and watch them fight with the last enemy, and it was like, would you quit playing with them? Just kill them, please. Do something. But Beast actually did a lot of damage, so that was cool. There's a weird summoning system that I never figured out. Playing through the story gave me different characters to possibly summon, but I think it could only be done in certain battles, and by then I was focused on the fight and not trying to menu my way to a summons menu and try to understand what a summons does. But I'm pretty sure I could summon like Simba or Tinkerbell or other characters like that, characters that I hadn't really seen before. They weren't the possible ones to be in my party. They were completely different characters. My last note for gameplay is late game crafting was way too late. There's a store that unlocks very late in the game, and it's filled with Moogles, I think is what they're called, from Final Fantasy, and they're like, hey, give us freaking materials and you can craft these different things. The more things I crafted, the more other things unlocked that I could craft. I think it capped out to like 25 things that I could craft. This system heavily requires backtracking and completing absolutely everything for the most part, pretty much. If, however, you do absolutely everything to get all of the materials and craft everything, you are then given the ability to craft the strongest sword in the game. I like hidden rewards like that. It feels like we don't really get a whole lot of that anymore. Secrets like that. In closing, I've dabbled with Final Fantasy games before. My first was Final Fantasy III, which I think is actually 6 because the first couple took forever to be brought to North America from Japan and the numbers got messed with really, really bad. I played that on my Vita. I've tried Final Fantasy X a couple of times. I dug Final Fantasy Remake Part 1, integrate, titles are really hard until I realized that my 60 hours of gameplay had gotten me 15% of the way through the game. I then gave up. I'm familiar with them, and I'm really interested by them, but they've never gripped me. I want to call out of work for a week because I can't let the game go, but they just don't do that for me. Until this game. I hold that this is the most accessible Final Fantasy game I've witnessed so far. There were a couple of hiccups, like not really being told I had to equip a dodge roll, but this game did a bunch of things right to make itself accessible. Fighting is a simple enough concept. Push button, swing sword. I could learn the complexities of special attacks using the Y button or spell casting, but usually swinging sword and avoiding attacks did just fine. The characters are familiar and inviting. I didn't need to know any deep lore. Leveling up is automatic. I didn't have to worry about what stats to boost or having to be a certain level to equip gear. It was simplified, and it made it very, very accessible. I'm amazed at how much I enjoyed my experience. I really hope that this is my gateway drug to a whole genre of games I've kind of avoided. This game helped me to finally see the appeal to JRPGs, and I'm really excited to play more of this series. Except that the entire fandom says that the next game is the worst one ever.
Speaking of the worst thing ever.
Oh, come on.
Not really the worst thing ever. Doom from 2005 is a pile of dog shit, and I like it. It abandons the fucking concept of hell and just says that they're mutant aliens or something.
Yeah, it's basically a zombie movie.
It's so dumb. Like, it looks like shit. The performances are shit. The dialogue is shit.
I wrote down a lot of notes for this movie.
There's one sequence that's done in first person, which was kind of neat towards the end of it, and like everything in this is so very loosely inspired by, but yet I can't not watch it. Like, it's bad, but I get chuckles. I don't know.
Yeah, I have seen this before, and I knew that it was bad, but that I kind of enjoyed it. It starts with a weird, unnecessary cold open that leads to a pretty cool color-changed Universal logo. It's like it's all red, and Universal's world is burning, which is kind of cool for no reason, because again, there's no hell monsters or rifts in this movie, but whatever. There's a lot of weird, quote unquote, like foreshadowing that the threat is from hell, like characters saying, "Oh, you gotta face your demons sometimes, guffaw," but there's just a whole lot of head nods toward hell, and then they don't do anything with it. It felt really weird.
Like, you would think if they were trying to go for like the we're ashamed that we're a video game, oh, we got to change everything and make it gritty, like it still wouldn't be this like schlocky mess.
Yeah,
because it's not like it's trying to be that self-serious either. It doesn't make any sense that they skewed away from so much.
I have 3 notes about Dwayne Johnson. The first one is, holy shit, The Rock has hair. The Rock has a Semper Fi tattoo across his shoulder blades, across his back for cum shot at world building. Look, he's a Marine. We didn't even have to say it. And then finally, The Rock gets the BFG after the movie has shown an entire 3 enemies. And then he goes to waste both shots that are in it, and it doesn't do anything in the movie.
Yeah.
I hold that this movie was destined for failure because I think it was influenced by Doom 3, which came out a year before or a year after. You can kind of see the inspirations. It's a lot darker. It's trying to evoke that horror feeling of like, ooh, what's the unseen threat in the dark that's going to poke its head out? Oh, it's one enemy. Shotgun, go bang.
Right.
And then that's it. Or like the flashlight fails. It has the vibe of Doom 3 the most. It holds closest to that game out of the whole series.
Yeah, no, for sure. It is so odd because like whenever I've probably seen this like 10 plus times like at this point.
Wow.
Not most of those weren't even necessarily willingly. I think I've only put it on because I wanted to a couple of times, but I've just caught it. I don't know, on, oh look, cable. Oh, I'm sick and I'm gonna binge a bunch of crappy movies. I don't know, like whatever. It's so much more like Alien/Aliens than it is like Doom in terms of vibes and like character designs. It's really fucking weird. I do agree that it does have a lot of kind of Doom 3 energy, which I do want to revisit because now that, you know, as time goes on, everyone's like, okay, well, now that we'll revisit it, and like, okay, it turns out it wasn't actually dog shit. It was just really fucking weird and not what people wanted. Mm-hmm. But every time I watch this, I'm like, oh, right, this is supposed to be demons from hell. And I'm like, no, this is just like dime store like penny candy store like aliens.
Yeah.
It's got a bunch of like kind of Geigerisms in like really dumbed down ways. It's, I don't know, there's just something about it. It's sterile, despite the fact that it is kind of like gross and goopy sometimes. It feels very
it doesn't
it's not heavy metal. It's not heavy metal enough.
Yeah,
like it's you can make Doom more sci-fi, like that's very doable. The games do it all the time. It is still like you're a space marine on Mars, but also going to hell. Right. But it has a fusion of both like heavy metal energy and weird sci-fi fantasy stuff, whereas this is just pretty much all sci-fi, and very rarely does it go, yeah, fuck yeah, big gun. Like, and when it does, it doesn't even remotely try to attempt to evoke any of the energy that the games have. It feels wrong, but yet I still don't completely hate it. It's not like it's offensive. Right. It's just bad.
I think I gave it 2.5 stars, mayhaps 3.
Pretty sure I gave it like a 2 out of 5, but I like it.
Oof, I gave it 2. So there you go.
Yeah. Like, this is one of the few examples of like the earlier era of video game movies, and like, okay, it can not be a complete pile of dog shit, but it's still not that good.
Yes.
Like I
it's
feel
not
like
pain and misery, but it's not a good movie. It's still
like
kind of enjoyable.
I would argue, I think that Hitman, which we watched last month, is like a far more competent movie, but like it's not as entertaining. Not necessarily because it's trying to be. It's a different type of movie. You know, it's a different beast. But that feels more competent, even if I don't love it. This is just like, it's so slapdash that I can't help but be like, wow, look at that massive gape in logic. That was ridiculous. I don't know. Like, it's like it's so me feeling what you feel when you watch horror movies half the time. You're like, oh, this is dog shit. I love it.
Yes.
Like, you have problems. Watch good movies.
Moving on to the news, though. From IGN.com, Peacock has lifted the lid on Twisted Metal Season 2, releasing a teaser trailer, confirming new details, and setting a summer 2025 release date. Twisted Metal is the Anthony Mackie and Stephanie Beatriz starring TV show based on the cult classic PlayStation series. It earned a spot among Peacock's top original series after Season 1 scored the streamer's most binged comedy, premiering back in 2023. Following the revelations in the Season 1 finale, John and Quiet find themselves entering the deadly Twisted Metal tournament, a sinister demolition derby hosted by a mysterious man known as Calypso. As they try to survive an onslaught of dangerous new foes and familiar faces alike, including the murderous clown Sweet Tooth, things get complicated for John when he reunites with his long-lost sister, the vigilante Dollface.
I thought that the teaser was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm a little on my high horse. I feel like you, because I see the rocket launchers with the colored smoke plumes, and I'm like, why are you spoofing Far Cry 5? But besides that, it looks like more Twisted Metal, which is good and fine.
It looks like a solid budget upgrade, or maybe it's just been given more time to cook, because that's one of my major criticisms of this show was like, not just her CGI bad, but like it did have, when they weren't able to do a lot of practical effects, it did kind of look like shit.
Yeah.
And it does look like they've either been allocated the time or money to do a lot more of the car stuff practically, which is cool. Like it still comes across as cheap, but like not in a bad way. I don't think it's very over the top and silly. Borderlands, but in a good way, I guess. I don't know. I'm looking forward to this one. I probably should rewatch the first season and maybe not try to binge it over a day and a half like we did. Because I haven't thought about it very much, but like when I watched this, I was like, oh right, I did like that. It would be neat to get more. I don't know. I guess it's good that Pisscock is finally having like something positive.
Something quality.
Yeah. From PlayStation Blog, Days Gone Remastered rides into PlayStation 5 on April 25th, a game nearest and dearest to our hearts with our good partners at Climax Studios. We strive to make this the definitive way to play Days Gone for new and returning players. Step into the dirt-flecked shoes of former outlaw biker Deacon St. John and feel his desperate struggle for survival in a brutal open world ravaged by feral creatures known as freakers. They're zombies. Days Gone Remastered is brought to new life by the PS5 console. Improved visual fidelity, increased foliage draw distance, improved shadow and lighting quality, 3D audio, VRR support, and more with a billion asterisks. Select your preferred playing experience between quality mode for increased resolution or performance mode for improved frame rates, and with the added power of the PS5 Pro, blah, blah, blah. There's now a Horde mode, which offers fresh and unexpected gameplay designed to challenge your skills as you achieve a high score while surviving as long as possible against increased horde size and various other enemies, like other survivors and evolved freakers. Travel across familiar regions found in the story, including the Cascade, Belknap, Lost Lake, and Crater Lake, but be warned, the world comes for you. Fight your way through a brutal, ever-evolving landscape where enemies escalate in difficulty the longer you survive. Move up in level to earn in-game rewards with never-before playable characters, new patch cosmetics, and unique injectors to greatly impact your gameplay experience. But wait, there's more. We love our Days Gone community and wanted to provide a small gift that keeps on giving. At launch, Days Gone Remastered will get another game mode. Equip your nitrous and race against the clock in an all-new speedrun mode. You'll need to play through the story as quick as possible. Be sure to share your best times with a special endgame graphic to post. Blah 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 blah. Photo mode. If you already have the PS4 version, you can upgrade it for $10. Otherwise, it's $50. On the one hand, holy fuck, it doesn't actually look like that much better at all. Also, because this game isn't even that old. But on the other hand, like, how desperate is PlayStation for money right now? They're remastering all of their first-party games, and like not that well. What the fuck is going on over there?
Yeah, I don't know anything about Days Gone. I've never touched it.
It's apparently like the most 7 out of 10 game in like a positive sense. It's like, oh, this is like solid. It's fun, whatever. And it's like,
I know people at work that have gone a little cuckoo bananas for it, and that's good, I guess, but I don't know, it's never made its way into my circles, and I don't really care to let it. I do like it when they say if you already have the OG one, it's just $10 to upgrade. Like, that's cool, because it seems like there's a lot of new features at the very least. Like, it may not look different, but there's a new speedrun mode and photo mode and whatever else. So obviously $10 is not much for a lot of man hours that has gone into this update. And at the base premise, I think that's cool.
I agree. It does seem like a decent bargain, but there's just something going on with PlayStation. Like, this game is more up my alley, I think. I have still yet to play it because I don't have a PlayStation right now. But like, I don't know. It's like every time I turn my head around, it's like, wow, look, they're re-releasing another PlayStation first-party game, and it's like, wow, that doesn't even really look any different. Can you guys make something new, for fuck's sake? Like,
it could also be
studios are working like crazy. What's going on?
It's probably a little bit of, because they've been releasing these games on PC, they've now put in the work to make these games look better because they're running on high-end PCs. So to backwards compat the PC version back onto PS5 instead of PS4 or whatever, like, it's probably a little bit of that.
Yeah, that would make sense.
From Gamefile.news, never heard of that. The most unusual thing about the announcement of Doom: The Dark Ages last June was the omission of one word that's been associated with the series for the past 30 years, multiplayer. It wasn't a mistake, and it doesn't appear to be set up for a future reveal for this newest game in the series that pioneered the PvP deathmatch. Instead, developers at Doom Studio id Software confirmed to Gamefile and other members of the media earlier this week that The Dark Ages, set to release on May 15th, is a campaign-only single-player PC, PlayStation, and an Xbox game. No deathmatches this time. The developer said that focusing on making a single-player game has enabled them to make a better game. They gestured at the trade-offs that studios make when deciding which parts of a game to build and the pitfalls that occur when a studio puts too many features in a game. Strictly Campaign, Dark Ages creative director Hugo Martin said during a video streamed live Q&A with press and influencers. He'd been asked if there was any multiplayer or was strictly single-player. Quote, "We made that decision early so that we could really just go all in on the campaign," he said. "It's our largest, most expansive, most epic campaign ever, and we're just really happy with the decision. And I think it's been awesome to have the team focused just on polishing and finishing the campaign." The game's executive producer, Marty Stratton, made the cost-benefit analysis even more explicit. The new game's campaign doesn't just feature a grand first-person adventure played from ground level, but an extensive amount of gameplay built around the player flying around on a dragon and epic sequences that involve commanding a massive 30-story walking mech. These were things we wanted to do in the game for like multiple games now, but couldn't because we had a multiplayer component, which we loved, Stratton said, referring to missed opportunities in the Dark Ages predecessors. But really, it was meant to just focus on the single-player campaign and just level up that experience for players. Martin and Stratton's comments might be refreshing for those who recall the 2010s industry phase during which seemingly every big game, even those from perfectly good single-player franchises such as BioShock, Batman, Arkham, and Assassin's Creed, added unnecessary competitive multiplayer modes. And that's kind of what I was going to say, is that I barely touched Doom 2016 and Eternal's multiplayer. I played a handful of matches and was like, I suck at this. It's not very compelling. I don't care. Put me back in the single player.
I agree. Especially, it is strange because Doom was very important for like the development of PvP for first-person shooters early on. But 2016's multiplayer was developed by a bunch of like the studios who worked on like Halo 4's multiplayer, so it was really, really similar in terms of like basic arena matchmaking stuff. I think I did more than you, but it wasn't that much. Maybe like 10 hours. It was okay. It just wasn't that riveting. Eternal had a bunch of like asymmetrical game modes, which I did think were a good move in terms of playing as one demon versus like a team of enemy Marines or whatever. I thought that was definitely a better direction to take it in. But in terms of especially like the background economics of this game, and also my gut says that because this game is a prequel and they kind of just dropped the nuke that this was even in development like 5 minutes ago, and I don't know, like the marketing cycle is ramping up, but something about this actually feels very small in a good way. It doesn't sound like it's the entire studio. I think they went too all out with Eternal and kind of overdid themselves. So it would make more sense, I guess, like economically, to then really try to hone in on a good campaign. Also, in like the same Q&A, they did add on that it's also not an open world, which I take as a positive because it's another thing with Eternal that I really struggled with, was how large the world space was and then how to navigate that. Whereas now it's still very large, but a lot of that space is being used for the flying mechanic and like the mech battles, I think is a better use of like time and energy.
It also, I think it's a good call because the multiplayer wasn't groundbreaking and thus didn't really catch on, which means not many people played it for very long. And a lot of the trophies in both 2016 and Eternal were around the multiplayer. And it's like, I've tried going back and like 100%ing Eternal or 16, and I've gotten really, really close. Pretty much all I have left are like do it on God's balls difficulty and do all these multiplayer trophies, and I can't even get those because the multiplayer's been dead almost since launch. So I'm very happy for this.
Agree. I think it was right before Eternal came out. I went on a massive streak of like trying to win 100% 2016, and I'm pretty confident I'm like 98% of the way there, other than on the achievements, and it's like 60% of them are multiplayer based, and it drives me up the fucking wall. So it definitely seems like a better idea in terms of longevity and like general asset direction. Final bit of news from Kotaku. On February 3rd, EA published a new video and website detailing the future of its first-person shooter war sim series. That would be Battlefield. The next game in the series is being developed by 4 development teams who are part of a new group known as Battlefield Studios, Halo Studios. As stated on a web page announcing the group, which includes Battlefield creators DICE alongside Criterion, Ripple Effect, and Motive, these studios are working together to bring a bold and faithful new vision for the series to life. Early gameplay of this next Battlefield game seems to indicate that, as previously confirmed by EA, it will return the franchise to modern-day combat as seen in fan-favorite titles like Battlefield 3 and 4. The studios involved also explained that this new game will feature the familiar classes and vehicles used in destructible maps, all hallmarks of the series, and that this next Battlefield game, which remains unnamed and does not have a release date, will include a single-player campaign too. EA has not revealed a new release window or official name for the next game. BF Labs FAQ indicates the next game will only be available for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. They also, as like some of the background info for this, is they're making like a mega super advanced like beta testing. It's a whole like it's a unique system, but it's effectively like even earlier beta testing for most of the community, which is a really good idea with how fucking poorly the last game turned out, because there was like effectively no testing. And like even if you play it now, the game is apparently like stable. It functions now. It's just like it took them a good 2 years to even fix it. So it does definitely track to have multiple studios working on like a massive franchise-wide reboot. The gameplay looked particularly solid, but it's also like a curated brief snippet of very early gameplay. So
I didn't even really see new gameplay. It felt like a montage of the past several games as they're doing a corporate circle jerk of like, here's what makes Battlefield great. And it's like, and that's also why the last Battlefield failed, is because it had none of that. So, I don't know. The video felt like more corporate circle jerk than anything. But yeah, I'm glad that they're, testing their game before they release it.
Yeah.
They're focusing on what actually makes Battlefield different and good, and quality testing it. Like, yeah, good job, guys. Good job.
Yeah, congrats. We're back to square one. I didn't actually think this was going to start like development for a while. It sounds like this has already been in development for what's got to be at least a year by now. I thought it was going to be longer, to be honest. I don't know. 2042 was like such a, not just like a near franchise ending flop, but like it was worse than Cyberpunk. Like it was so ridiculously disheartening for like the entire industry, and for EA to have sunk so much time and money into effectively a dead project. I figured it was going to be like a massive corporate restructuring, which it kind of is, because now they have all their studios working on the same game. But I don't know. I just didn't think this was going to happen so quickly. I don't really know how to take that as a positive or negative. It's just interesting, or maybe time has just gone by a lot quicker than I thought.
Do you have a source for this next bit?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was though.
Well, while you try to find that, because we always cite our sources because we're professionals, here's a list of all games coming in March 2025 for all platforms: PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Nintendo Switch. 2 Point Museum, never heard of it. Split Fiction, Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster, Wanderstop, Macho, WWE 2K25, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Atelier Yumiya, The Alchemist of Memories and the Envisioned Land, Bleach, Rebirth of Souls, Tales of the Shire, The Reason Spencer Doesn't Kill Himself This Month, Killing Floor 3, Atomfall, The First Berserker, Kazan, and Inzoi, Inzoi. I don't know most of these.
I only know 2 of them. Sorry, 3 of them.
Assassin's Creed Shadows, Killing Floor 3, and Tales of the Shire.
Oh, shit, I forgot about Killing Floor, actually. Tales of the Shire is the big highlight. I know what Bleach is because I've read some of the books, but Yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles actually kind of stuck out. It's I believe a remaster of like the original Chronicles X, which looks decent.
Didn't they remaster that one for the Wii and then bring that to the Switch as a port?
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure. Maybe.
I don't know. It's a series I'm not super familiar with, but I probably should get into. Shadows has been delayed a billion times, so at least it's finally actually coming out. Still doesn't actually look horrible.
I've heard mixed things about it. I kind of don't care.
Yeah. No. Tales of the Shire.
Killing Floor. I have wanted to get into the second one mostly because of the soundtrack. They hired Reach Records for it, and I know like every song backwards and inside out. But also I've never played a Left 4 Dead like before, really. So I'd really like to play it, but it's hard to matchmake on that because it's kind of old. It's kind of really old. And also I just work a really retarded schedule, so it's hard to find people that play video games at 4 a.m. or whatever.
Tales of the Shire.
Yeah. The source for that is altchar.com.
It was the first article I used, but I just double checked it against a couple of other ones like GameSpot, and it's fine.
That's good. What game did you play this month? Wrap us up, big boy.
I played Amnesia Rebirth, which is the third installment in the Amnesia series. It came out in 2020. It's a survival horror game, I guess. It was developed and published by Frictional Games. It has also received a follow-up indirect sequel, I believe, this year or last year, with the fourth installment. It's first person and it's scary. There isn't much here, to be honest, which is weird because it is a kind of narrative driven experience in a sense. It is very, not just because it's literally done through first person, but the game is primarily about puzzles and staying alive and whatever, and kind of embodying your character. But the character was kind of boring. You play as Tasi Trianon. You're a drafter on an expedition, basically. You're part of like a research group, and you crash land, and you're the only survivor, and blah, 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 blah. Your memory's gone, hence amnesia, and you start to get little pieces of stuff back in your brain as you scavenge through the desert and a bunch of underground tunnels to find notes of how the other people survived, et cetera, et cetera. It sounds like for these games, especially, despite the fact that the previous two games had been released, I think almost at least like 5 years beforehand. Like, this is not some like very quickly. Yeah, it's a sequel to The Dark Descent from 2010. So it took them 10 years to make this, or at least to get to the point where they wanted to put out another game. It's not. This shit's just not that deep, bro. Like, which is kind of disappointing. Because this is one of my special brainworms of like types of horror games, the kind of I guess System Shock-esque like first person sim, which can mean a million different things, but there's definitely a vibe that if you've played one, you know. Just the character work was really uninteresting here. It wasn't horrid. It wasn't like it was really bad. The voiceover was fine. The puzzles were easily the largest gameplay element, and actually the thing I struggled with the most. Maybe because I'm stupid, or maybe because they're not good puzzles. I couldn't tell you. You know, can never really tell. But like the thing that's driving why you want to play the game, being the story and the background and trying to figure out what happened and all that, just wasn't that appealing. As the mysteries unfold, they're just kind of, I don't know, standard. Like, wow, turns out you're not the only survivor, and actually some of the people that you survived with are bad guys, and I don't know, scientists do bad scientist things. I guess the largest chunk of the lore that I did find interesting, which it seems to be mostly disconnected from the other games, like none of them are direct sequels to each other. It's more of like a gameplay formula. Just aliens, which is cool, and I like that. There's another dimension, which is also cool, and I like that. It takes a while for it to get rolling, it's not a very long game. I think average like campaign completion is like 10 hours or something like that. But the first like two or three are very standard. Like, I am in a desert and I should get out of the heat. It's hot. Ow, ow, ow. Like, I don't know. It felt really poorly paced. Some of that might be due to preference or, I don't know, my mood or whatever. But it did not feel particularly well spaced out. A lot of events took a long time to build up to, and then there'll be a lot of things that just kind of unfold back to back to back. And it's like, oh, holy fuck, that's a lot of information. And that's very distracting, because when you go into the actual lore in terms of how it's written, all of the notes and like the background information, I do think that is done well. It's just the subject matter isn't as interesting as I was hoping it was going to be. Turns out you were pregnant, so of course you got to have, you know, that whole additional survival element added on, because then you end up giving birth like in the game, and it's plot relevant. So there's a bunch of shit around that I won't tell you, but like, it just feels like I've kind of been here and done that, which is weird because I can't name you one example, but it just comes across as a bit too trope heavy. The art style is pretty good. My biggest gripe with that is that I was actually playing this on my PC, and because of that, I had to turn down a lot of the fucking settings to get it to run correctly, because I don't have some massive mega PC. Like, I don't have a full rig. I have a decent laptop, and I think that really took away a lot from the art style. It just made it feel a lot cheaper than I think the game was intended to be. I think a lot of the art style is done through the lighting effects and the atmosphere and like particle effects and all of that sort of stuff that you kind of, it's set dressing, I guess. But when you start pulling back the resolution and the settings, it greatly impacts that. So it ends up feeling really stripped down, because the gameplay loop is incredibly simple. It's basic movement mechanics, sprinting, crouching, walking, etc. There is no combat in this game. Unlike the previous games where there is like minimal combat, if you end up encountering an enemy, you either run or you die. And if you die, you just get pushed forward in the game, which is also new for this entry. It will basically just jump over said enemy encounter, which is really weird. It sort of ties in with the weird dimensional bleeding alien stuff, but not really. It just kind of felt like a way to accelerate how quickly the game was moving. Instead of having you keep trying the gameplay encounter over and over again, it would just go, cool, you skipped 5 minutes in the future, deal with it. I guess I respect it. I just don't really know why they did it. Again, because there's literally no combat gameplay at all. Most of the enemy encounters are very, very contextual, because it is primarily derived off of a fear system, which I do love. It is great. It's basically, the longer you're alone or in the dark, you get more freaked out. The screen will have more distressing shit on it. Your heart rate will accelerate, etc., etc. And basically you start seeing shit, which will include enemy encounters to, like, for the most part. So if you just wander around in the dark without like ever turning on a lantern or lighting a match, you're going to die in about 3 minutes, maybe. You just go insane pretty quickly, which tracks. But it does make it hard to tell which encounters are like fear induced or which ones are like part of the primary like campaign experience, in terms of like enemy placement and how all of that works. It's kind of difficult to explain. There's just a lot of overlapping systems, which I think is a testament to it as a positive, because I can't really tell what is because of my own stupidity and what is the game actually trying to challenge me. But it does make it harder to dissect. The sound design is excellent. It was very discouraging when my headphones started acting up pretty recently, and when I was maybe halfway through this game, so I ended up having to play it on the speakers, and that was lame. I think the vast majority of the atmosphere is done through the sound design, as well as just knowing there is a fear system. Not even necessarily that the system is doing anything, but just that it'll have like little audio cues and remind you like, oh yes, there is shit moving around in the dark. And because it's not a combat based game, like there's nothing you could really do to fact check the game on whether or not it's lying to you. Like, there isn't. It's really hard to tell whether or not there's actually shit out there, or if the game is about to pull something out of its ass just to fuck you over, or if you're just being stupid. Like, and I think that makes it really exciting, I guess. It works really well for that sort of survival horror part of the game. The puzzles are kind of, I don't think they're good. I also suck at them, so I just really can't say. But whenever I would get stuck, it was because of a puzzle. And very frequently not because it was a very clear, oh, you're now in a puzzle area. It's like, oh, where's this damn door key? And then I have to go scrounge around like 4 different areas separated by loading screens to go try to find a key, and the keys aren't labeled or whatever. And it feels very sloppy, I think, would be the best way to put it. It just doesn't feel super directly. It's just not intuitive. It's very, there's one spot in particular that I got stuck at where you basically have to construct an elevator, and I was like, fucking what? It doesn't tell you.
Something else that Doom failed at the movie is like they didn't even do the color coded doors. Like, what are you doing?
True. But like, there's a spot where you'll go uncover like a construction manuscript, and you get stuck in an area, and it's like through just fucking around, you have to like drag over a bunch of different parts from around the area, again through the dark, so it's already difficult to tell where you're going, and then basically assemble them to get like a functioning like lift. I like it as an idea, but it doesn't feel like it ever really tells you you're about to do a puzzle, which makes it immersive, but it also then takes away from the kind of like Tomb Raider-esque, like, I'm in a desert, I'm in a fortress, I'm gonna go find a thing. I don't know. It's not trying to be over the top about it, so it doesn't really seem like a valid criticism to be like, oh, it wasn't super contextualized and like fucking obvious that I had to do these things. But it then makes it really frustrating when my PC is kind of chugging and I'm just trying to figure out a damn puzzle. And like, wait, can I actually, like, am I remotely in the right ballpark with this, or am I just fucking around for no reason? This was decent, all in all. I do plan on checking out their other games, whether it be the rest of this series or just their previous series, which was Penumbra. It's another like first-person survival horror thing. I do want to check those out because this is a very, I guess, a high effort type of game to make. But I was just very frustrated with this one. I do think a lot of that is probably because I played on PC. I should probably just move back to console because then the game will be presented in a way that makes a lot more sense. And I don't know, it'll just be a generally more intuitive, because I'm already working on a keyboard and mouse, and that's just not how my brain works. So doing that with a type of game that's already meant to be difficult and kind of confusing was probably not the right choice. I bought it for $5 digitally though, so not too bad. I don't even remember what sale it was. It was just bumping around in some survival horror, and I was like, oh, that's got good reviews and it's cheap. I should try that. So it wasn't a waste of time by any means. I'm interested in continuing with the series and the studio, but I don't think I'm going to replay this one in particular, like, probably ever. Maybe I'll boot it up on Xbox just to see how different it functions when it's in a more constrained environment, I guess, with pre-built settings and stuff. I'm just not a PC gamer, man. Like, it's a general gripe, and it makes it hard to specify what is a problem with the game and what is just, I don't like playing games on PC.
You know, there's a way to hold special buttons on your Xbox controller and make it work on your PC, so you can eliminate the keyboard and mouse just like that.
I can, and I did actually try that, but it wasn't that much better because it's just a weird control layout. It still doesn't function like the Xbox game because it's still playing on my PC.
Whack.
So, yeah.
That is the end of the show. Thank you for listening. If you don't already know, we do a show almost every single week, but usually it is a comic-related show that we do with our friend Colin, where we talk comic books and comic movies and comic TV shows and comic news, and really whatever else comes into our tiny little collective brain. Please go to Substack and subscribe to the cool little newsletter that we type up that summarizes each and every episode, except maybe the gaming episodes. I don't think Spencer's jumped on that bandwagon just yet.
No, I did. I started and I was like, oh fuck, this is way too much. I can't do this.
But we do that newsletter so that we can provide pictures of the books and movies and TV shows that we're talking about, so you can have a visual representation of what we're talking about, and not just whatever words are entering your ear holes. For free on Spotify and YouTube. A special thank you to our patrons, Caitlin and Jeff Lawrence. They went over to patreon.com/dimecomicbros network and subscribed under one of the tiers that they found there, and then permanently forgot that they actually subscribed to anything, and they're just having all of their funds drained by us. It's kind of cool. It's
Directly into my Steam account.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible that we got away with such an easy scam. They get all kinds of bonus rewards, I guess, or benefits for subscribing, including access to our Patreon exclusive show, Dime Comic Bros Happy Hour, which is probably going to get renamed because most of us are trying to go sober. Stay tuned. But we record that after almost every single episode, unless life is falling apart. And it's usually just us hanging out and talking about whatever really interests us. It doesn't have to do anything with the show. A special thank you to Jetpack Comics and Games in downtown Rochester, New Hampshire, for providing comics and games and game accessories. They sell video games in the back for sale. They have some really cool vintage games back there. It's really cool. They have a Marvel vs. Capcom set up at the front of the store that you can actually put quarters into and kick the shit out of your friends digitally. It's cool. Check them out. Next month, I should be reviewing Uncharted 3 if I finish it. Do you know what you're talking about?
I'm talking about Disco Elysium, the final cut.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to carve out 6 hours next recording.